President Bush deals with a lot of personalities in his book Decision Points, among them Vice President Dick Cheney, who had a disagreement with the president over his refusal to pardon Cheney's right-hand man, Scooter Libby. One of the interesting parts about the book are Dick Cheney was mad at you because you didn't pardon Scooter Libby. Is he still mad at you?
No,
Cheney?
he's not. I don't think so.
Do you talk to him a lot?
Fair amount, I do. Yeah, I was very concerned about him because he was sick, and then I'm pleased to report he's coming down to the groundbreaking of our library at SMU.
So you guys are pals still?
Yeah, and I'm going to have lunch with him and looking forward to seeing him.
He was a powerful vice president, correct?
Well, I'm not sure how you compare him to other vice presidents, but
you listened to him, right?
Of course I did. Just like I listened to a lot of other advisors, and the book makes it clear sometimes he agreed with my decisions and sometimes he didn't agree with my decisions, but always he helped implement the decisions, and never did he go behind my back. And
he was straight up.
Well, I make it clear to the reader, this is important, that I made the right choice in picking him in 2000, and I feel the same way as I sit and talk to you.
The press probably hated him more than they hated you. And he, unlike you, pushed back a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you ever discuss the press between you?
Occasionally, you know. You might remember the famous the famous moment in Naperville, Illinois, when the mic was on, and I was referring to some press guy. I mean, so yeah, occasionally there was grousing, but generally, I was aware of what was in the press. I generally ignored the opinion because by the time I ended, it was very predictable.
Even mine? Did you ignore mine?
Oh, of course, I listened to yours all the time, and became the whole crux of the Bush administration.
Your father. How often did you call him when you were in the White House for advice?
Yeah, not very often for advice, but I talked to him often to try to comfort him.
Why didn't you seek his advice? I mean, former president.
Well, because he knew that I had better information at the time than he would have known, and he understood what it meant to be president. I mean, the president gets a lot of advice, some of it unsolicited, a lot of it from inside the White House, but he also knew that when the heat gets on, and the heat was on during my administration, you tend to seek out the advice of the people closest to you. And what's interesting about my relationship, and I make this clear in the book, with my dad, one is based upon love. I mean, I love the guy. And secondly, and I admire him, by the way. And secondly, I knew what it was like to be the loved one of a president. I mean, '92 was a painful year. I didn't like the way the press talked about my dad.
Well, you were feistier back then.
I punched back. I mean, I'd get in people's face.
I hate guys like that.
Yeah, you were wishing that would be later, but anyway. And so my dad, and I knew my dad would be agonizing over what he read or what he heard.
About you, right.
And so I'd call him and say, "I'm doing great." Just like when I'd call him when he was president, he'd say, "I'm doing good, son. Don't worry about me." Yep. And so our roles got reversed. I spent most of my time comforting my dad.
Interesting. Colin Powell didn't want to invade Iraq.
Another O'Reilly provocative statement. Nobody wanted to use the military except...
But he advised you not to do it, didn't he?
The conversation that I replayed in the book basically was a reluctance to use the troops in Iraq.
Right.
However, when I said if we have to, in other words, if diplomacy runs its course and we have to use troops, he said, "I'll support you."
But he didn't want to.
Well, you can understand that he's a general.
I absolutely understand it. Look what happened. I mean, the unintended consequences of that invasion were tremendous. They were horrific.
Well, the intended consequences were also tremendous.
You realize.
And that is that 25 million people were liberated.
True.
A country that had been run by a tyrant was no longer a threat to the United States of America. And we have a chance to have a transformative moment in the Middle East, and that is a free society emerging.
But you know the blood and treasure sacrifice that the American public, and not to mention the military, we're here in this great Air Force Museum, not to mention the killed and maimed.
No question. No question.
So it's always a balancing act. Is it worth it for that? No. Could we have done it another way? Condoleezza Rice told me, she's in a very good book out, by the way.
I read it.
And I was interviewing her.
I mean, you're only promoting one book, and that's mine. No,
your book, listen, you're going to be #1, and the worst part about that is you're knocking me down on the bestseller list. Okay, but you're opening
has written a great book.
And she told me that maybe we should have done it another way. In hindsight, maybe we could have gotten him out of there in another way.
No, I think if people read the book, they'll realize we went to we
that was the only way.
Every way, everything possible.
Were you scared when you ordered the surge and it was like you against the world? I mean, tell me the truth.
I don't think scared's the right.
Apprehensive?
Right. No, I was convinced that that if we didn't put more troops in,
but you were
we
alone.
would lose, and if we lost, the consequences would be catastrophic.
One of the moments that when I interviewed then Senator Obama, he admitted to me that he was wrong and you were right in that surge thing. And that was painful for him to admit because, as you know, he was a vociferous critic against the Iraq War. Do you ever speak to President Obama? Does he seek your counsel on anything?
No. He did call me and ask me to join with President Clinton to help raise money for the people down there in Haiti, and I was more than happy to participate.
So that was the last call?
Well, no, he called me right before his speech. He gave a military speech on Iraq, and he was heading into Texas and gave me a heads up that what he was going to say in the speech, and I was grateful for that. But I don't expect to be called by President Obama, nor do I expect to be called by whoever follows President Obama.
Well, if I'm elected, I'm going to call you. Is that all right?
If you're elected, I'll be in total shock, so I won't be able
so you won't be
to
able to speak. No, don't speak. You won't be the only one. All right. Now, were you surprised John McCain lost?
I was disappointed he lost, and
you think any of it was your fault?
I think the fact, first of all, if you're the head of the party and your popularity isn't good, it makes a drag for Senator McCain. He had a generational issue he had to deal with. I mean, we had a young president that nobody hardly knew, and an older guy, and I think generational politics affected my dad's campaign, for example, in '92.
Yeah, against Clinton. Sure.
Yeah.
Sarah Palin, his VP choice, a very controversial woman. You thought it was a good choice?
Yeah, I think it energized the party. I mean, there was a moment where people were kind of in the doldrums, and Sarah Palin arrived, and boom.
Going forward, 212.
Probably won't answer this question.
You won't answer the 212 question?
No.
You don't want to look ahead to the Republican Party's resurgence?
You want me to be a pundit?
That'd be great. You want to be on them like once a week on the
That's what I'm trying to tell you. No, I don't.
Well,
it looks like my main candidate is not going to run, and that's my brother Jeb.
That's interesting.
So that's a dodge to the question.
No, that was that's good.
Okay.
All right, so you'd like, but 212, Republicans have a lot of optimism now that they'll take the White House back. You going to help them?
If somebody wants to come and ask what it's like to run for president, I'd love to talk. You know how us retired guys are.
But you're not going to be like Bill Clinton out there going from state to state with candidates and things like that.
I probably won't do that, no.
Decision Points. That's the name of your book, right?
I think it is, yes.
Okay. Off camera, he's giving me jazz. I'm not mentioning the book. I'll tattoo it right here. Decision Points. Come on, everybody knows the name of the book. All right. When I write my books, there's one thing usually I want people to take away from the book.
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, my book must be a little more complex than your books.
No, so much more complex.
I had a variety of things I wanted people to take away. I want to put the reader in my position, so that whether he or she agree with my decisions or not, at least they'll understand how the process worked. I want to give future historians a point of reference.
Do you want the reader to like you?
This isn't really about trying to enhance my popularity. I've never been a person that says, well, if I write this book, maybe I'll shape my legacy. That's the legacy is. It takes a long time for history to.
And you'll be dead, and I'll be dead, right?
Exactly right.
Okay.
And I hope people get the sense of how much I love our country and enjoyed being the president.
Mr. President, I want to apologize for giving you a hard time if I did.
No, it was fun.
Okay, and it's been my privilege to talk to you for 4 times.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks for taking the time today.
Enjoyed it.
Now, we had to edit that interview just a bit, and we are posting the entire conversation on BillO'Reilly.com and the Factor Fox News website, so we hope you check that out.